Hi, I'm Rick Kaler. Thanks for joining me. In the business of selling financial products, the good deal exemption may be one of the most widely used rules that most people have never heard of. You can't find it in any rule book or statute. Even Google has never heard of it. Yet it's used on a daily basis. The rules and laws surrounding the sale of financial products are complex and voluminous. Even with the best of intentions, it isn't hard to run afoul of a rule somewhere. This is where the good deal exemption comes in. It says that a licensee can violate any rule or statute as long as the investment sold to the customer turns out to be a good deal. Now, this is a tongue-in-cheek way of saying you can violate any rule you want as long as the customer doesn't file a complaint or sue you, which they're rarely going to do if the deal turns out to make them loads of money. It's when investments go bad that customers often complain or sue, and not because they were aware of any security violations, but because they lost money. It's the ensuing investigation by the regulating body and the customer's attorney that typically will uncover any violations that happen. Recently, I came across a perfect example of the good deal exemption. A married couple I know, Arnie and Audrey, invested with Bernie, and that's not his real name, about 30 years ago as they neared retirement. He invested their entire savings of about $310,000 into mutual funds that invested in common stocks. Because of a pension and Social Security income, they didn't need any additional income from their investments. At the same time, Arnie put his investments into a revocable living trust, naming Audrey as the trustee and the beneficiary. 11 years later, when Audrey was 80, Arnie died. Losing her husband's pension income and one Social Security check, Audrey needed to start drawing about $2,000 a month from the portfolio to replace the lost income. While most advisors would have recommended reducing the risk and volatility of the portfolio by cutting down the allocation of 100% stocks to put something more into bonds, Bernie kept Audrey invested 100% in stocks. Now, this is pretty aggressive, especially for an 80-year-old needing income from a portfolio. He made no changes when the years went by. When she turned 85, for example, she started showing signs of dementia. Bernie rightly suggested appointing somebody other than herself as the trustee. But rather than naming one of her 3 children, who didn't trust Bernie and may have transferred the accounts, he convinced her to appoint his wife, who also worked in his office, as the trustee. In any broker's books, this was a serious ethics violation. In the Great Recession of 2008-2009, when Audrey was 89, her portfolio lost just under half its value, falling from $832,000 to $479,000. Now, had Bernie reallocated the portfolio before the crash to a mix of, say, 50% stocks and 50% bonds, the loss would have been cut in half, which would have amounted to over several $100,000 of savings. But to his credit, Bernie told her to stay the course and not sell out. That was the right move. Recently, at age 99, Audrey died. Her account had done phenomenally well, being 100% invested in U.S. stocks, which for the last 10 years was the best investment class on the planet. Her $478,000 had grown to around $1,300,000 and provided her with an income of $2,000 a month. She left her estate to her children. Despite the inappropriately risky investments and the ethics violations, Bernie and his wife are likely to be protected by the good deal exemption. Given their substantial inheritance, I don't think Audrey's children are likely to sue. This happy ending, despite Bernie's violations, was due primarily to luck. Audrey lived long enough and at the right time so her portfolio recovered. However, if luck were a sound investment strategy, Las Vegas would be full of millionaires happily retired on their slot machine winnings. Thanks for listening.